Jen, thank you so much. We're so excited to have you today. The first thing I wanted to do was to let you introduce yourself a little bit to everyone, let everyone get to know you. So I wanted to start on a positive, with a positive question. I'd love to know what the past 6 months, when you look back at this really unconventional time, what's maybe one positive that you've brought from it, either an experience or something you've learned that you wouldn't have been able to had you not had this pause in your life, both in work life and your at-home life?
Yeah, no, I mean, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to talk to you and just share, what we're doing here at IMG and Endeavor with the rest of the conference. Yeah, the last 6 months has been unreal. It's been crazy. But again, I think we're all looking for that silver lining and taking a step back. And I think one of the real true silver linings for me is in running events. Um, we're gone all the time. We're running at Mach speed. And they always everyone tells you to take a breath, balance, stop. Yeah, COVID kind of made me stop. And it allowed me, to lean in a little bit, be uncomfortable or be comfortable with the uncomfortable, I think has been that saying for everyone. It was very uncertain, I think, for a lot of us in the industry and in various business verticals. And it just allowed me to kind of take a step back, not and really take some stock in the connections that you have, whether it is through family and your friends and your work colleagues. We were all forced to stop and pause. And, I think I've connected with a lot of people within the industry where we normally would just be talking business, but the ability to just reconnect I think we were all, there's strength in numbers. We were all going through it together. And there's some camaraderie to that. There's an innate common denominator, I think, that brought us together. And again, I know they always say sometimes tragedy brings people together, not tragedy in itself, but big monumental historical moments bring people together. And I think that's where I'm starting to see is just taking a beat to pause, be present, and allowing myself to reconnect with people in the industry and spend some time with my family. I think this is the first summer I've had in 20 years. So it was nice. It was nice to go to the beach when I could and work out when I wanted to.
I'm with you. This is the first summer I've spent in LA in the 12 years I've lived here. Who knew we
Right.
had a beach right there? Who knew
Exactly.
you could go surfing every morning when you're not on the road? So, Jen, you oversee a wide range of events. And you and your partners during this really unconventional time found some really creative ways to pivot the strategy behind them and pull off some events this summer. First, I'd like to ask you about the Great Ocean Road Running Festival in Australia. When it was postponed, your team created a virtual festival and did so pretty quickly. I'd love to know how, without the in-person festival, you were still able to create real connection between athletes all over the world.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bummer, that we had to, again, COVID, I think, stopped everything, obviously mass gatherings and events. And that's a disappointment for anyone that works on the event, but especially as a participant, especially in the endurance space, you're training for 9 to 6 months. If you're really fast, maybe it's 3 months or a month, but, for us, we knew that at the time, we were postponing the event to August. So everyone that had signed up for the event was going to automatically participate. We were just extending the event to Q4. And we wanted to celebrate the training and all of that time that was put forth to train for this marathon. And the endurance community is tribal in nature. And so we're also, it's an individual sport. We like to, pat ourselves on the back. So there's that immediate gratification. And the virtual race allowed us to do that, to really bring the community together, reinforce the fact that although COVID isn't allowing us to all get together, in real life, we can still participate on these original event dates and still celebrate and look towards the event that's going to be taking place in August. And, with that said, everyone wants the medal, everyone wants the recognition, but it was a great way to just, again, reinforce and bring the community together. And it garnered, what typically a live event and a race would just be regional within the Australian market, did, like you said, extend globally, and in allowing people to still say that they competed at the Great Ocean Road Running Festival in a virtual race. And, you know, for us, we got a lot of great feedback, you know, online and with our community, because we are all looking for that opportunity to connect and do something. And this gave, you know, an opportunity for our participants to achieve and do something in particular.
How important for you has social media and non-traditional media outlets in general been in rethinking all of these events, the Great Ocean Running Festival included, and where are you able to still find growth?
Yeah, I mean, this is a great question. You know, social media and non-traditional media has, you know, always been something specifically for us in action sports. And when you're looking at the U.S. Open of Surfing, or, you know, traditional made-for-TV events like the NFL or NBA or the World's Strongest Man property, which we oversee, you know, it's an extension of our live events. But I think what COVID really forced us to do is, you know, we were all sheltering in. We were forced into our own bubbles and quarantining, and that connection with others, whether it's with your colleagues, your family, and your friends, forced all of us to adopt and really use social media as a means to communicate and connect. And especially what normally with social media, non-traditional, you know, media has been probably predominantly much more used for work environments like video conferences or maybe a younger demographic. COVID really allowed this opportunity where older generations or multi-generational families are starting to adopt it. I mean, we're all doing FaceTime dinners, you're doing Zoom happy hours, we're all, you know, we're experiencing this conference right now in a virtual space. And, you know, where I see some really great growth opportunities is specifically utilizing the example with the Great Ocean Road Running Festival. And then leading into 2021 with Escape from Alcatraz Triathlon, and as we start to ideate and program the U.S. Open of Surfing with Vans and the WSL, what I'm seeing is people are participating in non-traditional media and social media versus those mediums might have been used in the past in much more of a consumption passive mode. But when we're all doing Instagram live workouts in those first few, you know, weeks and months of COVID, you know, the popularity of Peloton and doing Peloton challenges and rides, Zwift cycle app where you can do the Tour de France and there's a gamification and challenge and competition. What I'm really seeing now is it is a true extension of what we as event promoters or organizers, we focus on the in real life events, but this COVID has really forced us to be able to expand that footprint much more so into the digital landscape and allow, I think, our consumers, our fans, and our athletes to interact and really become a fabric of the event versus on a secondary level. And I think it's not just the consumption, it's participatory. So thinking of ideas with Vans, where you're attending the US Open of Surfing, and there is the House of Vans workshops, you know, there are animation, you know, workshops, you're doing music lessons and guitar lessons, that can now translate to an online experience where maybe in the past people would just say, no, I'm not going to do it, I'm just going to go to the US Open of Surfing. Endurance is a perfect example of why the Great Ocean Road Running Festival virtual race was successful. When you were in endurance, most people were either just training online, they weren't necessarily competing. But now that people are willing to do it, it's an infinite, you know, world of possibility and growth, because now the adoption rate and the familiarity of just being able to do culinary cooking classes online with a renowned chef, wine tasting virtually, it's now we truly have extended and connected in real life events with what we can do online as well. And I think that's where I see the growth opportunity. I mean, it's mind blowing. And it took us a virus to put us at a standstill to think outside of the box and really force some of these ideas that I think a lot of promoters and other companies have been thinking about without a lot of certainty on whether there will, if you build it, will they come, will they participate? Now those ideas, we had to, we might as well, let's try it out. And I think there are some best practices. There's some really great case studies out there from brands that have just really done that and reached out and have been successful. So I think we're going to look at events in a hybrid way now. And I think that's exciting. That's really, really exciting.
How much does that also open up the possibility of not just expanding the event, the in-person event online and reaching those same consumers in a different way, but also expanding your audience, growing your audience, maybe bringing in someone who wouldn't have attended or signed up for the Great Ocean Road Running Festival or wouldn't attend the US Open of Surfing? How are you thinking about going and getting an entirely new audience this way?
No, I mean, that's exactly that. I'll take the Escape from Alcatraz triathlon in particular. That race and that triathlon is capped with a certain amount of athletes due to the safety of the course because we're in the middle of San Francisco. And it is a bucket list race. So there are people, people have to sign up for that race, and there are people that have signed up and you earn one of those slots in a random draw. There are people that have signed up for 5 years and have never gotten in. So it is 100% that. And what we see the advantage now is the ability to do a virtual race. Although there is a coveted spot if you are able to compete in the event next June in real life, creating an Escape from Alcatraz virtual triathlon and race still allows and reaches a demographic and audience that might have bumped into this race or this virtual race that is interested in triathlon, might not necessarily be at that level yet to compete in that event, but still participate and still be part of the overall brand and camaraderie and community. And so I think that's a really great opportunity for us. It's not just taking the core triathlete anymore, or the core endurance runner, or the core surfer, or the core skateboarder. Now you're reaching across, the pond, you're reaching across, country lines, and really then tapping into this lifestyle and this community of like minds and interests. And that's where, it's exciting. It's mind blowing for me. I think it's fun. That's really fun for me.
One early event that I thought was so much fun that we haven't talked about yet, that was really an innovative sporting moment early on in lockdown when we didn't have many sporting moments, was the stay-at-home slam. I would love to know what the creative process was that went into the creation of the stay-at-home slam and what you learned from that you've brought into some of these other events and will take into the future.
Yeah, no, the stay-at-home slam was such a fun event for our company in general. Tennis events were at a standstill, and for us, we all didn't know what COVID was. And we were all navigating day by day with the different pieces of information. And our tennis athletes, they've been training for so long, they can't compete. They're sheltering in at home, but they wanted to do something because this was a global pandemic. And it really stemmed from a kernel of an idea with our IMG tennis division, where the athletes really wanted to create an event and do something to help with COVID relief and all the wonderful, charities and foundations that were assisting with COVID relief, and especially our non-essential workers or essential workers. So it really started off as the tennis division kind of talking about it, and they realized, hey, what if we created a doubles tennis tournament? And it's a virtual tennis tournament. We'll play Nintendo Mario Tennis Aces, and let's pair an athlete with a talent or celebrity. And so it was a great opportunity to align with the tennis division and then tap into the other various, pillars and levers of IMG and Endeavor. So early stages, like you said, in COVID, where there was no sporting events, no entertainment, it was an opportunity to create some fun, allow the athletes to have some fun, give back for COVID relief, and entertain their fans and give something back and give a little bit of respite under, this really crazy time. And the really great aspect of it was they were able, the winner, it was all for charity. And the winner actually won $1 million that they could donate to their charity of choice for COVID relief. And so it truly is one of the first in times of COVID digital programming elements, and it garnered 24 million. They will actually reach 24 million Facebook users. It was amazing, and it was fun. And I think at that moment we didn't have anything, and it was a great way to allow them to entertain and show their fans that they were there, and we're all in it together.
So one of the other organizations you work with that you mentioned briefly is the PBR. To be clear, that's the Professional Bull Riders Association. And they returned to competition in April. They were the first to do so. They were the first in a bubble to create a handbook. And Sean Gleason, their CEO, from everything I've heard, once they figured it out and got this off the ground, was really willing to share the blueprint they'd come up with that worked for them, that they knew wouldn't work for everyone, with everyone, right? They really helped the NBA, the WNBA, UFC, and now all of our events that are working to return to live competition. Why was he so willing? Well, why did they want to be first? And why was he so willing to share everything they'd learned, and maybe give us a couple of his early findings that were really sort of monumental in getting us back to live sports?
No, absolutely. I mean, kudos to Sean and the PBR team because, and obviously being part of the, Endeavor and IMG network, it was a lot of through those best practices, and we're constantly in conversation together. But the real root of why he wanted to take the challenge on was he felt such COVID stopped everything, stopped every business. And he had felt an immediate responsibility to the PBR industry. Events is the livelihood for all of the riders. The riders don't have guarantees. Very similar, very different from maybe other sports, which there are guarantees. So the only way that they can make money is through these events and potential prize money. The stock contractors that provided the bowls downstream to the staff at the events that were working. He knew that he wanted to find the right way and was willing to take the task on to figure out how we can bring a PBR event back together in a safe and responsible way. And through that, he was very diligent in working with the team and pulling on the other events business and sharing of information to understand how he could craft his playbook. And in those earlier findings, obviously it was about social distancing, minimizing contact. And so they worked with the April event was the first event that kicked off during times of COVID, working through the system and doing a limited amount of employees on site. Identifying within just even the people working the events, putting them in functional groups so that, you would minimize the amount of contact between both of them. And then understanding how medical testing was going to work and ensuring that even people that were there wouldn't, take if they're worse or if they were asymptomatic, taking them out. Through that process, I mean, to your point, he proved it. He proved the concept and he was willing to share it because to him, ultimately, was about if I could get the PBR events going, I could help the riders, I can help the industry, I can help the staff. I want the economy to get back to, I am willing to share this with the WNBA, the NBA, NFL, UFC at the time. And, with all, and even for us in Action Sports, that literally is the playbook that we're working off of. And there's a lot of fostering of sharing of information. So, Sean is a leader. He's a true leader in what he's able to kind of put together. And he wanted to show that we as America could be resourceful and innovative in finding a way to do this. And he proved it. He definitely proved it.
Yeah, it was incredible to see them return so early, and and to see all the dominoes fall after that first event. See all the other sports start to return safely. The last thing I'll ask you, Jen, before our time here's up is, you all have a lot of events on the calendar for 2021, whether those remain virtual or we're able to get back to in-person events. What are you most looking forward to next year once the calendar flips to 2021?
I'm looking forward to being able to be on site and seeing you and our athletes. But again, COVID, as we all know, the face of events will be different. There's going to be some modifications. Am I optimistic and confident that we will all be together again in real life and events? Absolutely. But what I'm most looking forward to is how events such as the U.S. Open of Surfing, which is a global action sports event, in addition to hearing from colleagues from X Games and colleagues from the Dew Tour, how we are pushing the envelope and expanding and coming up with some innovative programming that now looking at events, not just with what happens in the sand in Huntington Beach for the U.S. Open of Surfing, but what am I providing for our fans in Japan? What am I providing, opportunities to engage and participate with my fans in Australia? And how do we connect the dots between those two elements of the overall event? And that's what I'm most looking forward to, is being able to, yes, do events in real life, but at the same time engage and provide experiences and opportunities for people to participate, in other countries that might not be at the event. So yeah, I mean, that's where I'm at, and I'm hoping we can all, share best practices with each other and kind of move forward.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Out of this time that feels very isolated, this sort of moment of isolation, we've created this incredible connection that hopefully we'll bring with us into the future, even when we can be in person again. Jen, thank you so much. We're so thankful to have you here with us today, and stay safe, and hopefully I will see you in person soon.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me, and stay safe as well.